Ladies and gentlemen, it is time once again for XRL X3. I'm your host, Insane Leader 13. Sadly, XRL Chapter will not be able to join us, so this is 2 weeks in a row now where you're only having one broadcaster. I hope you guys can deal with that. But anyways, it is Austria. Real quickly, we're going to go down the list to show you everyone who's going to be running today. In the Mercedes team, it's Regulkin and Fratters. In the Scuderia Ferrari, it's Mr. Anderson and XRL Ozda. In the Aston Martin Red Bull team, it's XRL Fiend and XRL Dino. The McLaren F1 team is being represented by Retrorixie and Dave Ewart. In the Renault team, it's XRL Whippy and Higsby 97. In the AlphaTauri team, it's XRL Gussie and Skinny Fishbone. The Alfa Romeo team is being represented by Boothy 116 and Prudish Metal 74. Tracing Point is being represented by Constant Jet 1141, Haas is being represented by Dasani 10, and Williams is being represented by Mufasa 1869. We aren't anticipating any other drivers to show up before we get too far into this, and we're already beginning to load onto the track itself for qualifying. So real quickly, as we begin to load up onto the circuit, I want to go ahead and run you down on the various points standings as they are right now. 1 second. So, after last week's race at Catalunya, Ozda's gap to Whippy continues to increase, but going from the bottom to the top, Higsby 97, XRL Fiend, and Unarmed Drake 822 have yet to earn points. Fratters has earned a point, Constant Jet has a point, Dave Ewart has 2 points, he's 14th. Collie Boy has 3 points, he is 13th. XRL Gusty has 11 points, he is 12th. Boothy 116 has 14 points, he is 11th, while Prudish Metal 74 has 15 points and 15th. Mephosta 1869 has 20 points. Mr. Anderson has 24 points. 7th in the point standings is XXX Books XXX, he has 29 points. Dasani 10 has 32 points. Schold is 5th, he has 43. XRL Dino is 4th, he has 54. Retrorixie is 70, has 70 points, he is 3rd. Ozda has 96 points, and XRL Whippy has 144 points. And then real quickly, we'll go ahead and look at the Manufacturers Championship. So real quickly, looking at the Manufacturers Championship, Scuderia AlphaTauri Honda still only has 10 points, just terribly lagging behind, while the Mercedes team is 9th, they have 41 points. The Williams team has 49 points. The Alfa Romeo team has 64 points, and Red Bull has 70. 5th in the manufacturers team points is the Tracing Point team. They have 83 points. Haas has 102. Scuderia Ferrari have 121. McLaren has 149, and Renault has 161. As Boothy is the first driver to get onto the circuit right now, and we begin to load up everything proper for the race. There is anticipation that the race itself should be dry, but qualifying itself might end up being wet. If so, that means that tire, especially if we have a wet qualifying session too, that means that tire choice will be completely irrelevant. It's just going to be fastest people getting into the next rounds. But the big thing is going to be how long until the rain actually shows up. We're getting word that could be anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes, but we've seen that change before. Already, it seems like nearly everyone is out onto the circuit, with the exception of XRL Gussie, who is still in the pit lane, and Mufasa 1869, who is making that slow run out of pit lane right now. Top 15 drivers will advance into Q2, so right now that means that only 2 drivers will not get the chance to go forward into the next lap. We're going to go quiet for one flyer lap here on board with Prudish Metal so you can hear what it's like in Alfa Romeo around here at Austria. Alright, and as our first drivers are saying lap times, British Metal is currently staying on top of the timesheets with a 104.193. This is Skinny Fishbone coming around the final corners right now, and he's being followed by AlphaTauri. And Skinny Fishbone will end up in 105. He was following the Mercedes of Ray Yukim, who set a time of 105.932. Track limits not seeming to be too much of an issue here compared to the realistic race yesterday, as already we are looking at 10 drivers having set times in the session. XRL Dino is currently one of the drivers who are in the middle of a flying lap right now, as is his teammate XRL Fiend. The drivers who have already completed one flyer lap moving aside to give them a chance real quickly before the rain ends up being a massive issue. Also trying to set their lap is Dave Ewart, Fratters, and XRL Azda. This is Dave Ewart, who's currently coming into the last two corners now, as Fratters has invalidated the lap he was in the middle of, so he will have to go for another lap, and you better hope that he has enough fuel to do so. Actually, the next lap is invalid also, so he must have invalidated in the last two corners. Fratters is going to have to abort this cancel altogether, and with the threat of rain approaching, this could be very, very bad for this Mercedes driver. Gusty is finally out onto the circuit, beginning his out lap. That is a Haas that has apparently had an issue. That is Tassani. Tassani has had an issue coming into the pits, and there we are. We're starting to see rain on various drops on the cameras. Here we are looking down at turn 6 and 7, and there is rain beginning to fall. So for Fratters and Gusty needs to set this lap now, because as the rain comes down, the session will basically end. Drivers will still try to improve, but it will be pretty much a fruitless case scenario. Real quickly, we'll switch to the fitted compound so we can see when drivers actually do start making the swap to the intermediate tire. But right now, Fratters and Gusty are the drivers in trouble. Gusty trying to get a lap down right now as Fratters is coming to the pits. It's not going to be looking good for Fratters. Whippy retires from the session. He is currently on the top of the timesheets with a 104.108. Again, the top 15 drivers will all make it in to the next round. Gusty is trying desperately to set a time and set a good time before they get too far into the next round. Now, Azza is retiring from the session, so your two championship contenders have backed out. No need to continue risking the equipment. Two more cars left for Gusty, and hopefully the track's not so damp that causes him to lose grip. Alright, he's going to set his lap time. What will it be at the line? 107.124. That is 1.2 seconds off of Regan's time, and that means that Gusty needs to find this time quickly because the track is going to dampen up very fast. Skinny Fishbone is in the pit lane. He is equipped on intermediate tire compounds, and Gusty is already 4/10 down going through sector 1 alone, and that's literally just a single corner sector. So that just goes to show you that although we're not blatantly seeing it, the rain that has come down has already washed out the track for a significant amount, just to showcase how much it is. Regan has just retired from the session, 105.932. He's 15th, and he feels so confident that he's not even going to try again. Fratters is in a very interesting scenario because he's trying to set a fast lap now while the track is beginning to turn wet. So we're going to follow on board Fratters and see if he can make this happen. The only other driver on track right now is Gusty. Everyone else is in pit lane and may very well decide to just skip to the next session if Gusty and Fratters are not able to set time. And there we are. Gusty is coming to the pit lane. He is aborting the attempt he made. He knows that he doesn't have what it takes. Fratters now just trying to set a lap time, but it's going to be interesting to see if he can even come close to matching his teammate's time. Qualifying, or at least Q1, may have been over before it really even begun. And for Fratters and Gusty, who wait a little bit to set a fast lap, they are going to pay the ultimate penalty for that. Go silent and right on board Fratters for this lap. Well, we can plainly see now the track is lost. Fratters puts his heart and soul into it, but because he does not have DRS anymore on the 3 straightaways, that alone, not to mention the reduction in grip, means that his times are not even going to be close to competitive. A 118.437 for Fratters. Now, interestingly though, Gusty has swapped on the intermediate tires, and he seems to think that he might be able to do better and go faster on the intermediates here than what he did on the softs. Which I'd be very impressed if he could do because, again, no DRS, and the intermediates naturally have less grip. Now, they will grab the track better in the wet, but I don't see any way that he would be able to improve from the 107.124 he currently has. Fratters is currently on a cooldown lap, I imagine, as he is going to come in. Might come in to get intermediate tires. We might see a bit of a shootout for these last 2 positions between Gusty and Fratters. Every other driver, except for Pruish Metal, Higsby, Boothie, and Dino, has retired from the session, and those 4 drivers are all just staying by in pit lane. Now Dino is retired from the session. Gusty is going to try and see if he can set a faster lap on the intermediate tires, but again, no DRS on 3 straightaways in a row. I simply do not see it happening. There we are, Gusty is coming into the pits now. And we may see an extremely early end to qualifying session 1. Because everyone now is in pit lane. Yesterday in the realistic length race, there was a little bit of threat of rain later on, but the rain held back, and although the track definitely got dark, from the cloud cover, there was no rain that ended up affecting the race. Now we are definitely looking at rain, having a very direct impact on qualifying. Again, only 5 drivers have not retired: British Metal, Higsby, Boothie, Gusty, and Fratters. Gusty and Fratters are on the outside looking in, but it does not appear that they are going to be able to set a fast enough time to warrant them going out again. As I say that, Fratters is coming out now. He has equipped the intermediate, so at the least, Fratters is going to try and beat Gusty's time. We're just going to go silent in the booth once again and just watch him as he goes around, let the on-track actions do the talking. And Higsby is apparently going out right now on intermediate tires. And this is very interesting for Higsby because he does have something to lose. If Higsby crashes out, he throws away his cans in Q2. Right now, he's basically locked in, but Higsby in the Renault is currently going down into Sector 2 right now. So it's a very interesting decision, from the Renault team. Here comes Fratters, flying lap on the intermediate tires. Again, Fratters' best lap on the softs was a 118.437. He was chasing that car all around. We believe that he can improve from that without issue. The question is, can he even come close to Gusty's 107.124? Because quite frankly, this has now become a shootout for the last 2 starting spots. There you are at the line. He does improve up to a 113.345, but again, Gusty significantly faster Now, real quickly, when I look at Higsby, as Higsby is in the middle of a flyer lap, he is 6.5 seconds down at the end of Sector 2, and at the end of the lap, 9.6 second difference from intermediates without DRS to softs with DRS. So I think it's very plain now that Gusty and Fratters have no way to get into the top 15. Qualifying session 1, for all intents and purposes, is over. Fratters is on a cooldown lap. I imagine Higsby is on one as well. Hear a little bit of tire squeaking, and now Gusty is apparently going out again. So Gusty seems to think that he might be able to go faster and with the soft tires, and this is very weird because he's re-equipped soft tires. He's going to go after Regulkin. Now, the interesting thing for Gusty is that the soft tires aren't going to have any grip whatsoever, but he doesn't really have anything to lose because even if he crashes out, there's enough time they'll be able to get him back out onto the circuit without too much of an issue. Fratters is retired back in the pit lane as Higsby is coming around his next lap on the intermediates. 1:14, again, about 9.5 seconds of a difference, so I don't see any way that Gusty is going to make this happen when he has even less grip in the corners on these softs. As it is just this warm-up lap, he's having extreme trouble keeping the thing on the circuit proper. The interesting thing for Higsby is that Higsby is going out there on the intermediates and collecting data for the team. If Whippy has access to the data and the track starts on a wet surface, Whippy may have a better idea as to how the intermediates are going to handle around here. Ooh, that's not a very safe entry into the pits for Gusty, but he is abandoning whatever lap he was in the middle of. And Fratters is coming back out to try another attempt as he has equipped softs. Gusty has retired from the session, so Gusty has now forfeited any chance, even though there really wasn't any chance, but he has... Oh! And Fratters has crashed! Fratters has crashed coming out of the pit lane! And he goes right into the wall on exit, and there is now significant front wing damage on that car. It's not so much that would ruin the car under normal circumstances, but without that front end plate and the fact that he doesn't have any grip on those soft tires, he honestly is going to run the risk of completely destroying the car. Higsby has gone for another lap. There we are. Fratters invalidates this out lap. And again, with only 42 seconds left, I don't even think that Fratters can get to the start-finish line in time to set a flyer lap, even if he wanted to. Higsby coming around right now. And on board, you'll be able to see Fratters' Mercedes farther up the road there. These are the only two cars on track. And the time in session 1 has now officially ended. Fratters will not even have a chance to set a lap, and he very nearly gets run into by Higsby. And the session is over as rain comes down and knocks out two drivers before they got a single solid lap in. Here's your lineup. The two drivers will not make it in, Gusty and Fratters. Reagan makes it in, Mufasa makes it in, Dave Ewart makes it in, Dino makes it in, Skinny Fishbowl makes it in, Ozda makes it in, Dasani makes it in, Boothie makes it in, XRL Fiend makes it in, Higsby makes it in, Retro makes it in, Constant Jet makes it in, Mr. Anderson makes it in, Brutish Metal makes it in, and XRL Whippy tops the timesheets with a 104.108. Now here's the interesting thing. Rain doesn't seem to be falling right now as we enter into qualifying session 2. That doesn't mean it won't happen. That doesn't mean the track might not already be a little bit damp. However, we're definitely looking at no new moisture gathering on the circuit right now. Fiend has mediums equipped, and Constant Jet, Whippy, and Skinny Fishbone all have intermediates. Everyone else is currently equipped with soft tire compounds. In the XRL race yesterday, we saw that the softs were significantly faster than the mediums, and to basically eke out any sort of advantage on the mediums, you basically needed to have someone have a tire failure on the soft tire compounds. Unironically, making more pit stops might be a better option. This is XRL Ozda, one of your championship contenders, as he is making the way down pit lane right now. He will be the first car coming out onto the circuit. Now Skinny Fishbone has swapped over to mediums. Whippy still has intermediates on the car in pit lane, as it looks like that is Retro Rixie, who is now on his way out. Retro Rixie is a very outside contender for the championship. These are the only two drivers who are making their runs right now. Well, and as I say that, I see another car coming down. That is going to be Skinny Fishbone. He is equipped with medium tire compounds. Assuming the race starts on a dry track, mediums could be a respectable option if you're willing to really stick with them and hope that the drivers around you have a very bad time. And now Ozda comes across and he will try. Be the first driver to set a lap time in this session. Whippy is now on an outlap as well, as he is going through Sector 2 at the moment. This is very interesting, though, because we only appear to have 4 cars on the racetrack. A little bit of a hiccup there in the corner by Ozda, but he's still going at it. I just realized something interesting. So Whippy apparently still has intermediates fitted, as Ozda says a time of 1:05.477. And yes, Whippy is going to set this lap time on intermediate tires. Very strange choice, because the track seems relatively dry. Retro Rixie goes to the top 104.500. And now we see a Red Bull beginning to leave the track, and that is Dino, but Dino also has intermediate tires equipped. But the track, at least to us in the booth, looks, me in the booth, I'm the only one in the booth, but the track looks dry, so I have to wonder why you would choose to run intermediates in this session, unless you're just trying to throw away a set of tires. Yeah, it's not even remotely a competitive lap time from Whippy. He is a good 7 seconds off of Ozda, and I anticipate we'll see the same thing from Dino. Retro Rixie has had an instant, though. Retro has gone completely off circuit there in Sector 3. No damage to his McLaren, but he is merging back onto the track now. Higsby is, the other Renault is now on an outlap, as is Tassani and the Haas. They are both equipped with medium tires. British Metal is running the softs. So gradually, more and more drivers are filtering out onto the racetrack. Again, the circuit still looks to be relatively dry. British Metal coming around, and he will set his first flying lap in Sector 2 now. Now we see Constant Jet has come onto the circuit. Now we see the XRL Fiend has come out onto the circuit as well. And right now, it seems like a lot of drivers are choosing to stick with the mediums. Dino is coming around right now through Sector 2. Again, him and Whippy both have the intermediate tires equipped, although Whippy has pulled it back into the pits. So Dino and Whippy will have no choice, unless they don't care about making Q3, which would be weird, but they will have to come in and equip some sort of dry tire compound before we get any farther into the event, if they want to go into Q3. Whippy is on circuit is in the pits right now, and I imagine we'll see him do that, and Dino has abandoned the lap he was in the middle of, likely to do the same. Meanwhile, this is Tassani in the Haas. Purple Sector 2, 46.534. Sector 2 realistically is the more technical sector. Sector 3 is kind of a mix of both. And Sector 1 is just two straightaways with a not quite 90-degree quarter dividing them. And coming to the line, Tassani will set a lap time of 107.123. That's fourth best thus far, but not even close to Ozda's time. And Ozda had a, well, slow lap on soft tire compounds, to say the least. Fiend is in the middle of a flyer lap right now in the Red Bull, and unlike his teammate Dino, he's been starting this on the medium tires, as it looks like the track is beginning to brighten up, and I think I'm seeing sunlight, and a lot of drivers seem to think that jumping onto mediums is the ideal thing to do in this session, apparently. 45.185 for Fiend at the end of Sector 2. Now a bunch of drivers who are in the middle of their flying laps will set their times as they cross the line. Here comes Dave Ewart in the other McLaren. He goes up to 6th. Mr. Anderson, the other Ferrari, is coming around, and there is a tracing point that has gone off there coming out of the first corner. He set one lap, ruined it, and then has immediately ruined the next lap afterwards. Mr. Anderson has set a time of 105.186 right now. Constant Jet invalid lap, as does Boothie, although his time, 109, was not even going to be close to being competitive whatsoever. Greg Yukin in the Mercedes, one of the few drivers who is apparently going to attempt on soft tire compounds. He definitely lucked out. He didn't seem to have a lot of speed from the little bit of time we saw in Q1 on a dry circuit. But because he got a lap in early, he automatically was grandfathered up into Q2. He is going to jump onto the soft tire compounds and see if he can steal an extra spot or two going into this session. And he invalidates the lap there early on in Sector 3, but it's not going to help him whatsoever. Mufasa is in the middle of an outlap right now. Constant Jet and Boothie both in the middle of laps that are basically useless. Dino is still in the pit lane, and Whippy has equipped the softs while Dino has equipped the mediums, and we should see the two of them coming onto the circuit relatively shortly here. Boothie trying to get a good lap going. He is on the medium, so the mediums will be able to take a little bit of wear. His big challenge is going to be managing the fuel load properly. And yes, the sun is absolutely out on the circuit, so no risk of playing on intermediate tires yet. Dino has yet to set a lap time, as is Constant Jet. They are both in the pits, although Constant Jet is now beginning another outlap. Mufasa and Ray Yukin are both in the middle of flying laps right now. Now it looks like Ryukin is going to abort the lap time he was in the middle of, and Boothie another invalid lap, and this is not looking good. Right now, the top 10 drivers are all guaranteed to start. And we're getting word that Rain may be coming back onto the circuit very shortly, maybe in time for Q3, but they do anticipate that they'll be able to get through the rest of Q2 without Rain. Mufasa has finally set a lap time, 107.864. That will bump Whippy out of the top 10. Whippy is still in pit lane. He has softs equipped, but there has not been any movement in the Renault team to get their number one driver out onto the circuit. There is time left, but now with the threat of rain, how long do you really want to wait before going ahead and making that choice? We see his teammate Higsby coming in now. This is Dino coming around, and he's going to go for a flyer lap. Now he is running the medium tire compounds. Ryukin is on his way, coming back onto the circuit now. Boothie is in pit lane. Constant Jet is in the middle of a flyer lap. So Dino and Constant Jet will try and be the next drivers to set a lap time. The clock is ticking fast. A lot of hesitation early on in Q2 has meant that drivers are still struggling to find a lap time extremely late in this session. And that is XRL Whippy, who is finally making his way down pit lane, so he will be saying a lap sooner rather than later. Here comes Constant Jet around the final corner. The DRS pops open, and at the line, an amazing lap from Constant Jet. It's 104.234. Now we focus on Dino as he comes around, and he will set his lap time. It's good enough for 9th, 105.115. The soft tire compounds are beating the crap out of the mediums, with the exception of Prudish Metal, apparently. Tasani is retired from the session. He feels confident in his time. Oh, Prudish Metal's time was set on softs. Okay, that's interesting! And now Prudish Metal is just spun around, coming out of the first corner. The cars, it looked like the car had a bit of a sim twitch there, coming out of the final corner, and whipped right around, and he went right into the inside wall. But it's still in one piece. But this is the time that British Metal might want to consider aborting any attempt and just coming in. Ryukin is in the middle of a flying lap right now, as is XRL Whippy. Whippy has 2 minutes and 11 seconds to set a lap that will actually be seriously competitive, because right now he is on the outside looking in. Boothie is in the middle of a lap right now as well. But the first driver we're going to focus on is Ryukin. 2 corners left on the circuit. Running extremely wide enough that invalidates not only this lap, but the next lap as well. So Ryukin struggling to just get a clean lap in. There is enough time. As long as he has the fuel, he can rush around the circuit as fast as he can and set another flyer lap. This is Whippy. Retrixie has retired from the session. The pits, he feels no need to go faster. Ozza is out on track trying to go faster. Whippy to the top, 103.830. Fiend retires from the session. Ryukin trying to make it to the start-finish line in time for one more lap. Boothie still has yet to set a lap time at all. Mr. Anderson is on the bubble, while Dino, Mufasa, and Higsby are on the outside looking in. Mufasa is on an out lap. Now Tasani is on the bubble as Mr. Anderson gets knocked out. Retrixie is pushed down a little bit. And there's movement all around on the timesheets right now. Ryukin going for his flyer lap. Constant Jet has retired from the session. Oh, and Ryukin has crashed! Ryukin has crashed! Coming into turn 1, it looks like I don't know if the wheel disconnected or if there was no brakes, but he went straight off. And he is automatically not going to make it into the next session. So now, Dave Ewart, Mr. Anderson, and Mufasa are the drivers trying to make it in. Mr. Anderson is up a little bit on time compared to his prior lap. Dave Ewart is up by half a second right now. The session is over. Everyone must finish the lap they're on now. Dave Ewart jumps into 7th. Fiend is now on the bubble. Dino might also be on the bubble. He looks to be extremely slow. He is aborted whatever attempt he was on. Mr. Anderson coming around. He needs to try and beat Fiend's time of 104.873. He's up by half a second. Mufasa also needs to do the same. Boothie finally set a lap time of 104.097. It took him forever, but he got it. He is into the next session. And coming to the line, Mr. Anderson, 5th, 104.125. Dino is now on the bubble, and the question is, will Mufasa knock the second Red Bull out of Q3? He does! Mufasa up in the 9th, and Dino gets knocked out. A very, very chaotic Q2 with a lot of drivers waiting until very late in the session to set a lap. And again, there is a threat of potential rain coming in qualifying session 3. So getting out there and saying a really fast lap early on in Q3 could be extremely important. So there's your lineup. Dino, Fiend, Skinny Fishbone, and Tasani did not make it in. And very, very plain, top 10, all starting on softs, everyone 11th on back, tried to go on the mediums and just could not compete. So it appears that softs, without a doubt, are the choice to go as they were in the realistic race yesterday. And now we begin to launch the circuit in earnest for Q3. And again, there is a threat of rain coming in this session, so the first drivers to get onto the circuit and set a lap time will be in a very, very good position. And already I'm seeing movement from the Ferrari team. That is XRL X3. And Boothie, I believe, is the other driver. Is that Boothie or is it? No, that's Pruish Metal. Pruish Metal and Ozzo will be the first drivers to come out on the circuit. Now we see the Renaults of Higsby and Whippy coming out as well. That is the McLaren of Dave Ewart and Retro Ixie that is sandwiching Constant Jet. So everyone is on a rush to get out onto the circuit except for Boothie and Mr. Anderson. The two of them are waiting for the moment. And again, with the threat of rain, you cannot afford to be waiting like this. There we are. Boothie now on the way out of pit lane. Mr. Anderson has yet to jump onto the circuit. He's not made any moves to do so yet. And his teammate Ozza is going to need him to get out on circuit as soon as possible. So the Ferraris are high enough up the order to try and directly combat against the Renaults. Boothie pulls over and let Ozda by. So we're going to go silent for a lap. I'm right on board with Ozda as he tries to go for the front row here at Austria. Retro Rixie has had an incident. I'm starting to cut away from Ozda there, but Retro Rixie has had an incident, and that is not going to help him. Now, he is still in the middle of a, quote, clean lap, but... Oh, and he goes around again! British Metal to the top with a 103.788. Now Higsby third with a 104.526. Whippy 104.201. Drivers are the same lap times, but Retro Rixie is having troubles right now keeping the car properly on the circuit. 2 spinouts, one right after another. Boothie, in the middle of an invalid lap, will have to go again, and the sky is darkening up, and darkening up quick. Again, the threat of rain in Q3 may mean that any lap these drivers set could be their last attempt. Mr. Anderson trying to hustle it through Sector 3 right now. You can see his Ferrari teammate Ozda farther up the road. Ozda goes up to second, 104.042. Mr. Anderson goes up to fifth, 104.362. British Metal, though, has just set an even faster time, 103.735. Now Whippy goes back over Ozda with a 103.820. Mufasa goes to third, 104.025. Boothie needs to set a lap and set this lap now. It's clean for the moment. Coming to the line, Boothie sets a time, 103.759. So right now, Alfa Romeo has the front row locked out. Here comes Retro Rixie out of the final corner, and an actual competitive lap from him is 104.387. Coming into the pits now are the Ferraris of Mr. Anderson and Ozda. Whippy is in the middle of the lap, but he has invalidated this lap. He might just go ahead and bring it into the pits. Higsby jumps up to 7th as Mr. Anderson has been pushed down to 8th. The McLarens thus far are the slowest cars out on the circuit. Mufasa is bringing it into the pits right now. Everyone seems to be in the middle of a cooldown lap, with the possible exception being Boothie. Boothie going for another one. At the line, no improvement. Retro Rixie now goes up to 6, 104.050. Constant Jet is on the run, coming back out onto the circuit. And he is going to begin another out lap. Again, dark skies overhead, but rain has not started falling yet. As it stands right now, Alfa Romeo has a very firm grip on the front row. Whippy retires from the session. He feels no need to push any more. Retro Rixie currently out on circuit. As we're seeing the Alphas now beginning to come into pit lane. And I believe we're seeing a Ferrari come back out. That is Ozda. Ozda's going to try and get higher up than 5th. Coming out of the final corner, this is Retro Rixie. The DRS pops open. Not an improvement that time. Constant Jet now in the middle of another flyer. British Metal aborting whatever lap he was in the middle of, and I'm seeing what may have been raindrops on British Metal's camera. I cannot guarantee that's what it was, but I think I might have seen them. And right on board with Constant Jet, the rain has opened back up, so the track is dry for the moment, but how long will it stay dry for? Ozda is in the middle of a flyer lap, but the track is now beginning to turn wet. He was in this scenario at Singapore and ended up hurting him very badly. He needs to try and bounce back here. Oh, he's into the dirt, and he's going to go sideways. Did he save it? He saved it. But I think it's very clear the track is wet enough that you can't go any faster than what you currently are. I believe, if so, that means that the times we see on the board right now are locked. And yes, Ozzy is going to abort. The only driver left on track right now is Dave Ewart. And Dave is already 3/10 down in the first sector alone. So yes, it would appear that the qualifying session is over. Rain comes down very early and kills the drama nice and quickly in the session, as we're now beginning to see drivers retire. Dave Ewart very nearly spins out there in turn 4. And we're going to see DRS be disabled very shortly here, I imagine. And when that happens, then there automatically ends up being no attempt or chance for drivers to improve their lap times. And for Alfa Romeo, this is great. A front row lockout. As the session is over. And as the rain begins to come down and cover the circuit, teams will retire, I imagine, and drop out of the session. So a very, very quick end to both Q1 and Q3. Dave Ewart's retired from the session. Right now, we're just waiting on the Alphas, also Mufasa, Retro, and Higsby to retire from the session. Then we can see an early end to qualifying. So now we're just waiting for the clock to tick away, and it will bring an end to the session. Alright, and there you see from the clock, as we hit double zeros, time's up, over, plow. And there is your starting lineup for the top 10 of today's race. And again, soft tire compounds, very plainly the dominant tire of choice for the day. But you can't just stay on softs for the entire time. So I have to wonder, will drivers try a two-stop strategy and go medium, soft, soft in the event? Or something else, they might try soft, medium, soft, or soft, soft, medium. I myself wouldn't want to be on a slower tire compound near the end of the race, but I'm just saying there's going to be a lot of interesting decisions made because the softs are literally that much faster than the mediums from everything we've seen. All right, now we're just standing by to get underway for the race itself. In a very, very short qualifying session, both Q1 and Q3 coming to a very quick end, means that we will probably get to a slightly earlier start than normal, actually. Now, we are anticipating that the race itself should be nice and dry throughout the entirety. And again, because of the way everything went in Q2, no driver will be forced to start on a wet tire compound. So everyone in the top 10 we know are starting on softs. Everyone outside will be starting. It's going to be a little bit more interesting. Because another option could be, I'm not saying it's an ideal option, but you might try going hard to soft today if you can make the hards last long enough, because the softs will make up that time. Again, the softs just beat the medium tire compounds out so massively. To put things in perspective, yesterday, although in the realistic race length, the races are roughly twice as long, we saw one driver go hard to medium and another driver go medium to double softs. And the medium to double soft driver what came from the back row all the way to the top 5 before spinning out very late in the event. So, and then his teammate went soft, medium, soft, and was in the front after starting dead last. So the soft tire compound's very much the ideal tire choice to have. But if everybody has soft tires, then the only real advantage will be drivers who get significant gaps in the air between them and the driver ahead. Because you don't want to have the dirty air from the car ahead upsetting your car's ability to grab the circuit. Just stand by right now until we get the race itself underway. 17 car field for today's event. So just standing by right now until we get underway, and it looks like as we're seeing drivers readying up, again, a very early start. Normally you don't get going with the race until, a few minutes after the hour, but we've not even hit the hour yet, and it looks like we're going to be on track very shortly. So this could end up being very interesting. All right, and here we are. 4 lights, 5 lights. And it's lights out, the way we go here as the 2 Alfa Romeos are peeling off without issue, but that's Whippy who's coming along the outside trying to make something happen. A little bit contact there with Boothie, and he is going to go up, and there's a McLaren, and there's a ton of cars involved in a massive accident back there. That's Retro Rixie involved, Tizani's involved, Fiend is involved, Higsby has damaged the entire back of the field, completely sideways coming around the first corner. And that is a virtual safety car right off the bat. The shocking thing is, though, nobody with so much damage that's going to kill their car, but Fiend very nearly comes full bore and hits the back of the field, and now the back 4 drivers are all trying to figure out where exactly they're supposed to be lined up. And Retro gets a penalty for a collision with Tisani. But I was just watching, and they didn't, or if they did, I didn't notice, but I don't know if I'd even say it was severe. But anyways, back at the front, Whippy jumped Boothie and has gone right up to second, while Ozda jumped Mufasta up into 4th. Dasani has a time penalty for apparently ignoring yellow flags. I call bullcrap on that, but that's what the game seems to think is the case. So now the question is, what can Whippy do to get up? Constant Jet has just invalidated a lap and has gotten a time penalty before we even complete 1 1/3 lap. It's kind of shocking to say the least, because he's trying to do something to Mufasa ahead, and as the Ferrari of Mr. Anderson right behind, and everyone, the back 5, Skinny Fishbones, Higsby, Dave Ewart, Tasani, and Fiend are all in the pits to repair the damage. Oh, and Boothie went off the circuit there in turn 4, and now he's going to fall back to 4th position, so move Ozda up into 3rd now. And Whippy putting pressure on Prudish Metal here. Your championship points leader going to try and steal the race win after being cheated out of a front row start. Regulkin is up into the 9th position after starting 15th, so good job on him. While Fratters is there in the 10th spot, and he started on the medium tire compounds. So if Fratters can just not lose touch with the lead pack, and here we are, Whippy very easily, even just with a little bit of DRS, is going to walk by Prudish Metal down the 2nd straightaway. But as I was saying, for Fratters, if he can just stay in touch with the lead pack, once everyone starts swapping tires, he's going to gain a lot of positions, especially when everyone ahead of him has to be running mediums and he can just equip softs to the end of the race. But XRL Whippy has slotted himself into the lead very quickly, and I imagine we will see him hold on to it for the majority of the race today. Constant Jet is behind Dino, who is behind Mr. Anderson, who is behind Mufasa, and these 4 are all going to be forming a bit of a DRS train going down the straights. And it's very plain to see that although Prudish Metal has a great car for single lap pace, it means nothing compared to Whippy, who's already gapped Prudish Metal by 1.1 seconds. So it looks like it will be a snoozer for the win by your points leader, and the intrigue is going to be everyone from 2nd on back. Dino has DRS on Mr. Anderson, but Mr. Anderson has DRS on Mufasta. Coming onto the 3rd DRS straight, and that's one of the more interesting things about this circuit. You have 3 DRS straights all in a row. Dino looking back right now at Constant Jet. Wants to do something to Mr. Anderson ahead, but can't because Mr. Anderson still has DRS because he's going after Mufasa. And the 2 Mercedes of Reagan and Fratters are still hanging out with each other back there in the 9th and 10th positions. Here we are, coming back onto the straights. Again, a little DRS train forming as everyone's trying to see what they can do to Mufasa. And if one of these drivers can get by Mufasa, it will cause a brief feeding frenzy in this pack. But Mufasa just had a better line going through turn 1. And Mr. Anderson did not have a very good line. So now Dino on the inside of that second Ferrari car, but not able to complete the pass in turn 3. Running down to turn 4 now. No one able to do anything, but this time it's Constant Jet who is now closed right in underneath the rear wing of that Red Bull. But you don't want to be behind the car ahead too long. It will burn the tires up. Mr. Anderson extremely wide there through 6 and 7. And Dave Ewart and Higsby are having a little spat for 13th and 14th as Higsby has gone around Dave on the outside. And he still has DRS, so he will likely pull away from the McLaren a bit. As we focus back on the battle from 5th to 8th. And British Metal has a time penalty for track violations as Dino and Mr. Anderson swap spots going down the straight. And now Dino is outside of DRS range, though, of Mufasa, but he still has DRS on Mr. Anderson, so all three of these cars still have DRS, but Constant Jet, it seems to be a little bit better set up for the first sector because he's able to muscle his way by Mr. Anderson now. So now Mr. Anderson has fallen from 6th to 8th. As Constant Jet will begin seeing if he can run down XRL Dino. And that is Retrorixie, who has come into pit lane extremely early on in the race. There must have been some sort of damage on that car or something because he is now out of the points-paying positions. And I think with Ozza ranked 3rd and Whippy ranked 1st, any championship hopes that Retrorixie had are now permanently dashed with that. Has closed in on Mufasa, and Mr. Anderson farther back is still there on Constant Jet, waiting to see if something can be done. This is the most interesting battle on circuit outside of this, the potential battle for a lead. Whippy is leading, but he does not have time penalties. British Metal stalking him does have time penalties. To the outside goes British Metal. A little bit of a lockup, though. He's not going to get a very good crossover, it seems. He's still right there beneath the rear wing. He's going to look to the outside through 6 and 7, but immediately backs out. But right now, the main thing he's trying to do is A, keep fresh air on those tires, and B, try to get into Whippy's head and encourage Whippy to make a mistake. Boothie has snuck back by Ozda now. So Ozda falls back to the 4th spot. Again, Ozza will have DRS on the Alfa Romeo on these straights. And there he goes, up into the 3rd position. While farther back, Mufasa still trying to hold off Dino. Dino doesn't have to worry about anything. Boothie and Ozza neck and neck again, and Boothie gets back by Ozza on the 2nd DRS straight. But now Ozza will have DRS on Boothie on the 3rd one, and Boothie had a really, really bad exit out of that corner. And here comes Ozza. He's going to try and make it work on the outside. It's a little bit hard to make the outside pass work, but with DRS, he's going to cruise by without issue. Locks up the tires just a bit, so Boothie's going to try and fight back. Can't make it happen. Mufasa holds off Dino for just a bit longer, while Mr. Anderson has gotten back in front of Constant Jet. Those are your main battles on the racetrack. So for the podium positions, Boothie continues to hammer Ozda, while Whippy has opened up a small gap on British Metal. Fratters has come up into 9th position with the medium tire compounds right now, but compared to the race leaders, he is almost a 1/3 of a lap down. Dino and Mufasa have swapped positions. It's kind of hard to see who's going to change spots in these battles because of the way the DRS works. Oh, and British Metal and Whippy are in it. And they make contact, but Whippy is going to hold on to the spot for now. So we have 4 different battles we're trying to wash right now. First and second, third and fourth, fifth and sixth, seventh and eighth. All of them extremely active. Constant Jet ahead of Mr. Anderson. A little bit of wing-to-wing contact there. But the gap has gone back in favor of Whippy in the battle for the lead. Boothie is still stalking Ozda for third. Now it looks like Dino has begun to outrun Mufasa just a little bit. Here's Mr. Anderson behind Constant Jet once more. He now dives to the inside and he has the DRS. He's going to easily cruise by the tracing point. However, the tracing point will have DRS on the next straightaway. Now, though, it looks like Mr. Anderson has the 7th spot and will hold on to it for a bit longer. Brutish Metal closes in on Whippy just a little bit through the DRS straights, but without that fresh air gain on the front wing, he loses most of that time he gains throughout the more technical bits of sectors 2 and 3. There he is. He's got a better exit out of that corner, so they're going to be briefly neck and neck, and he still has DRS. The Renault blocks the inside line, so Brutish Metal's going to come to the outside, but he's not going to be able to do anything. He's able to pull alongside, but not well enough to put the Alfa Romeo outright ahead. Constant Jet and Mr. Anderson swap positions again, going through turn 4, as once again, Constant Jet is ahead of Mr. Anderson. And now Mr. Anderson fights back because he had the better line through the corners. British Metal significantly closer to Whippy this time, coming onto the main straight. So he may have enough DRS to get plainly by the Renault coming onto the 3rd DRS straight. He loses a bit of the time though, going around turn 1. Again, closing in on the Renault, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Again, the Renault blocks the inside. Oh, and the Alfa just bullies on the outside. They're going to be neck and neck going down the straight. But the Renault seems to be just a little bit faster. British Metal has the DRS. He has the outside line, though. It's not the ideal line, but he's going to make it work. And he makes it work, and Boothie has just gotten by Ozda, and he's using the outside. Ozda is going to try and fight back on the inside. Neck and neck for the position, and this time Ozda is going to be forced to back out and let Boothie take it. So now British Metal is back in front of Whippy, and now British Metal needs to see if he can force Whippy to make a mistake. So Whippy will have a time penalty, and they'll be even on time penalties. But right now, Whippy is right underneath Brutish, coming onto the main straight alone, so he should easily have enough DRS to just walk by him on the 2nd straightaway. Ozda right there behind Boothie trying to make something happen as well. Whippy not close enough to make it happen on Brutish on the 2nd straight. He's going to try again on the 3rd straight. And Ozda cleanly overtakes Boothie on the outside, but now Boothie is going to have DRS on Ozda, but he gets a little bit sideways, and that means that Dino's now fallen himself into this battle. So Dino is now going to bring himself up into the 4th position. He overtakes Boothie, and now once again side by side for a brief moment for a lead, but British Metal has the advantage over Whippy. needs to try and force Whippy into making a mistake, and Prudish Metal has just jumped into the pit lane. A very interesting strategy by Prudish Metal. He may be trying to do a two-stop. He will jump onto, if so, he'll jump onto the mediums now, and then run mediums for a good chunk of the race, and then jump onto softs for the rest of the event. He's not the only one to pit. Mr. Anderson has also jumped into the pit lane as well. But now Whippy will lead unchallenged here. Boothie right there behind Dino, and Dino wants to see if he can do anything to XRL X3. That will be a fight for a second position. Mr. Anderson jumped off of the softs and is now jumping on the hards, and he's going to run those tires to the end of the race. Now, the hards are extremely slow, but especially compared to the softs, but they'll be reliable. As long as he avoids accidents, he will not have to pit at all for the rest of the day today. There we are. Boothie is now pitting out of 4th, as is Mufasa out of the 5th position. So the top 3 drivers, though, have yet to make stops, and Dino's just trying to use DRS to extend this stint as long as possible. A yellow flag in Sector 2, and that is Tasani. Tasani has had an incident on the inside in the Haas. Backing the car up. Be very careful, mate. But he is properly underway now. A bad day gets slightly worse for him. Dino and Ozda swapping positions as Dino has beaten Ozda going through turn 4. Now Ozda is going to muscle by on the inside, but he'll back out just a bit. So the Red Bull now has 2nd spot. And your race leader, XRL Whippy, has jumped into the pit lane. Dino and Ozda staying out for a little bit longer, though. So now the question is, what are they going to do in the Renault team? What tire compound are they going to equip? And there's your answer, the medium tires. The thing is, you could probably make the mediums last to the end of the race. Owen Tasani has dropped out of the session in pit lane. Here's a little bit of a battle here. Constant Jet, Mr. Anderson, Skinny Fishbone on top of each other. Now, Skinny Fishbone has worn softs. Mr. Anderson has hard. Constant Jet has mediums. So this is going to be a very interesting battle going forward. Mr. Anderson has the run on Skinny Fishbone. He looks to the outside. They're going to be neck and neck for the 8th and 9th position. Very nearly makes contact. Constant Jet in a very good position because he's going to have DRS on both of them. Mr. Anderson did not have DRS, so Skinny Fishbone's fighting back on the inside now. And Whippy has just got the time penalty that Prudish Metal needs. Oh, wow, look at that. Mr. Anderson cut down on Constant Jet going into the corner. But now Whippy has the time penalty that Prudish Metal was wanting. And Prudish Metal now has a 2-second gap over Whippy for the moment as Dino and Ozda are both in the pits. And Oz is still behind Dino, though. Here comes Boothie and Fratters. Fratters on the medium tires that he started the race out with. Oh, this is not looking good for Ozda because Ozda's going to have to somehow fight on cold tires against Boothie, who is still on relatively cold tires. I mean, Boothie is on warm tires, Ozda's on cold tires. Both of them should have DRS on the straights, but Boothie has slot in front of Ozda. Ozda's going to look on the outside, but can't seem to do anything to Boothie, at least not yet. He's going to try and get a better run through the next corners, though. The good news for Dino, though, is that he's ahead of Boothie and Ozda. As long as those two keep fighting, he will hold on to the spot. And then this battle back here is continuing. Constant Jet, Mr. Anderson, Skinny Fishbone continuing to go at it. Skinny Fishbone's soft tires are falling away from him. falling away from me. Mr. Anderson putting some really aggressive pressure on Skinny Fishbone, enough that you might call it a chrome horn. And now Mr. Anderson is going to squeeze by Skinny Fishbone in the second to last corner, and Fishbone's going to abort the run. He is coming into the pits. Fratters now seeing if he can do anything to Mufasa, as Mufasa is on hards that should take him to the end of this race. And Boothie and Ozza continue their fight, but this time it's Ozza who is ahead of Boothie, and Ozza just needs to get within a second of Dino on the straights, and he can start using DRS as a defense against Boothie. But at the front, Prudish Metal and Whippy, both with 3 seconds worth of time penalties, trying to make something happen. And Fratters is setting himself to be in a good position. They are not quite halfway through this race. If he can make those mediums last a little bit longer, when he jumps on the sauce, he will be much faster than everyone else around him on track. It seems like a one-stop strategy is going to be the key strategy today. Boothie once again has DRS on Ozza on the straight. Now he's not close enough to make it happen this straightaway, but he might be able to on the next straight. Ozza just far enough back from Dino that he can't actually utilize DRS as a defense. Boothie, though, did not have a good run going through turn 3 there. And for the lead, Whippy is closed in on Prudish Metal. Prudish Metal just needs to make Whippy make more mistakes. The more and more time penalties that Whippy racks up, the better and better Prudish Metal's chance will be of winning here today. And farther down the field, Retrorixie is running down XRL Gusty and is going to try and get himself back into the points-paying positions. And things are going to get very interesting later in the race, because the drivers from about 10th on down, 10th to 12th particularly, will probably jump on the sauce before this race is over, and they will be flying and contending possibly for the fastest lap point. Meanwhile, for the lead, Prudish Metal, Whippy neck and neck going through turn 3. And Whippy still has the spot, but now Prudish Metal is fighting back. Drag race down to turn 4. Prudish Metal is going to be trapped on the outside. He's going to cut down in front of Whippy at the last moment. A very aggressive cut at that. And Ozza has caught Dino. Dino on the outside. Ozza's going to try to utilize the inside. Can't do it. He's going to fall back in line behind the Red Bull. Now he's going to look to the outside once more. Back out, fall back in line behind. But the battle for a lead and the battle for third is very much awake and alive. Here comes Whippy. He looks to the inside, thinks better of it. Fratter is a time penalty for track violations. Not looking good. Track violations are beginning to stack up across the field right now. Whippy has DRS on Prudish Metal. Prudish Metal blocks, though, going into turn 3. On to the next straightaway. Fratters is finally coming to the pits. He's throwing on the softs. They will make these softs last for 15 laps. He is going to be one of the fastest cars on track. Here comes Whippy. He's on the outside. He had the nose ahead for the moment, and he goes into the dirt. And Whippy has just slid into your dirt. And he's going to lose a bunch of time in relation to Prudish Metal in the process. Ozza continuing to stalk Dino. They're too far back. They're not going to be able to capitalize on Whippy's mistake as these three continue their own battle. And Mr. Anderson has gotten back in front of Constant Jet. And Mr. Anderson's tires will be good to the end of this race. Prudish Metal has just gotten another time penalty for track violations. So now the advantage goes back in favor of Whippy. Real quickly, as we show time penalties, Prudish Metal has 9 seconds worth of time penalties. Whippy only has 3. So that means that even with that mistake there, Whippy is more than likely going to walk off with this race win. Retrorixie and Fratters both have 11 seconds worth of penalties, although I imagine they'll take some of that off when they do inevitably come in to make pit stops. for your race leader, Prudish Metal, to have 9 seconds worth of time penalties against Whippy, who has been absolutely outstanding and dominant to most of this season. It's not looking good for him. Prudish Metal, honestly, could fall all the way outside the top 5 if he doesn't get everything going right and open up a really large gap. Whippy has already closed in that gap after getting pushed into the dirt. And Fratters has finally come into the pit lane to put on the soft tire compounds. Whippy right there underneath Prudish Metal. Farther back, Ozda is there beneath Dino. For the lead, Whippy easily DRS pushes his way by Prudish Metal. Now Prudish Metal needs to see if he can do anything to fight back on this next straightaway. He has DRS, but he didn't have a good run onto the straight. He's closing though. Whippy defends the inside. Prudish Metal is trapped on the outside. Whippy didn't have a good exit. He kind of compromised his exit a bit for a good defensive entrance. Prudish Metal coming on the outside. Is he going to back out? He's not backed out yet. They make a little bit of contact. Twice they make contact. They're still side by side, but there's no track left. Prudish Metal is going to have to back out from Whippy just a bit. Owen Reagan has retired from the session. But did he do it in pit lane? No, he stopped on the racetrack. And Reagan has just stopped on the racetrack, and that is a virtual safety car. Prudish Metal has jumped into the pits, and he will likely jump onto Sauce and try to run Sauce for the rest of this race. But he's going to plummet through the order in the process. And with the 9 seconds of time penalties, I don't see this being a very good option. But he might not have had much of a choice. And DRS has been enabled. Dino now behind Ozza. Ozza has no time penalties. If he can get within 3 seconds of Whippy, it might happen. But the speed that Whippy has been showcasing all day today, I don't know if anyone can get in close to him. Mr. Anderson right there behind Constant Jet going down the third straight. He has DRS, but didn't have a good enough run onto the straight in order to do anything to him. Booth, another time penalty for track violations. And Dino is continuing to put pressure on Ozda for the second spot. This is another interesting battle between Gusty, Higsby, and Dave Ewart. Gusty has soft tire compound, so he's likely going to try and outrun this trio. But Higsby has hards while Dave has mediums, so Dave will likely close in on Higsby. Fratters has just set the fastest lap of the day, although we anticipate the times will drop even farther as we get closer and closer to the end. And Retro Rixie has come into the pits. He will likely equip the soft tire compounds and then try and see if he can get fastest lap. But he was going to, in the process of pitting though, he's going to fall all the way back to the 14th position. Meanwhile, Prudish Metal on a mission to try and rush back up through the field. We know the softs are significantly faster than the mediums and way faster than the hards, but he's 9 seconds out from Mufasta. And he has 9 seconds of penalty against him as we speak. Prudish Metal may have taken himself out of race winning contention just by all the time penalties he's racked up. And Dino right there behind Ozda once again. He's got DRS on the straight, but isn't really in a position to do anything unless he makes a really deep lunge. He does not. He thinks better of it for the moment. Farther back, Mr. Anderson using the DRS easily cleans clock with Constant Jet going into turn 3, but now Constant Jet has DRS on the next straightaway. He had a better run through also because he has those medium tires with more grip, and he will overtake the other Ferrari without issue. Now Mr. Anderson is going to try and make a dive on the inside to get back by. They're side by side going through 4. They're still side by side, but one of them is going to have to back out going into 5. Oh, wow! And Constant Jet goes way off circuit. A little bit of tire-to-tire contact. The track just ran out of room, and Constant Jet is knocked well off the main line. And he's going to fall behind Fratters and all the way down to the 9th position. He's not going to be happy, and I would not be surprised if he asked the stewards for review, but we saw from the helicopter cam there just was a little bit of racing line going away there, not quite wide enough to run side by side into the next corner. Mr. Anderson thought he was clear and was positioning himself in the right position. They made contact, and Constant Jet thankfully was able to save the car and got out of it without any damage. Boothie falling off the back of the battle between Dino and Ozda. The interesting thing is going to be Prudish Metal. He is still 6th, and he has closed the gap to just 6.6 seconds between himself and Mufasa. He might be able to catch Mufasa and overtake that Williams before the end of the race, but I don't know if he's going to be able to get any higher than that before race ends. Once more, Boothie has DRS on Dino, and he has DRS on Ozda, but Ozda is putting down some very, very solid, consistent laps, good enough to keep him ahead of Dino and Boothie for 2nd. Most of the other battles on track have pretty much degenerated. This between 2nd, 3rd, and 4th is the main one to pay attention to. And for Boothie, it might not even be a battle much longer for him because he is gradually falling off the top 3 in pace. Again, even with DRS, Boothie actually lost time to Dino and Ozda down the straight. And now, Dino has a time penalty. And with Dino having a time penalty, Ozda is one of only 2 drivers, the only other being Dave Ewart, who does not have time penalties. And if Ozda can keep it without time penalties, he will get an extra point for completing the race without time penalties. So there is an incentive now for him to stay clean. Dino, though, has every incentive to get in front of Ozda and then try and push Ozda into making a mistake. Retro Rixie, another time penalty. And real quickly, we do want to put our focus to Retro Rixie, a very outside championship contender. Everything's just been gradually falling apart, and he is on track to earn no points in today's race. Needless to say, this is looking very, very bad for Retro's hopes to try and get a championship this season. He has closed in on his teammate Dave Ewart, though. Oh, wow, and Dave gets really, really squirrely going through turn 1, so Retro will just walk by using the DRS assist. And meanwhile, in the battle for 2nd and 3rd, Dino is the closest to Ozda he's been for a while. He's going to have DRS and might even be able to walk by him going into turn 3. And there's a slow Renault, and I think that's Higsby. Yes, that is Higsby's car that has completely gone around and was right in front of his teammate, Whippy, as well. Now, Whippy didn't seem to show any issue with it. Meanwhile, for 2nd, Dino lunges it on the inside of Ozda. Ozda trying to put some clean air on the front tires and the front wing, but he's back behind Dino now. Ozda looking to try and maybe get by Dino before they even get to the DRS zones. He's definitely putting a lot of pressure on the Red Bull, and he will have DRS on this next set of straights. Not going to make a move in turn 1. It's very hard to make that work. But he might be able to make it happen going down to turn 3. Right here, this is turn 2, which is really weird because it's just a slight bend on the straight. But here's Ozza, 2 tires in the dirt. He's on the inside. He's got the position, but now Dino will have the DRS back on Ozza. And as these two fight, it's going to let Whippy pull away a bit. And that means that Whippy will be able to outrun his time penalty potentially. Side by side again through 4. Oh, and Ozza goes around, and he hits the inside wall. And Ozza's chance of a championship is gone. What may be gone now. Because he's now fallen to 4th, and with that significant wing damage, he's going to have to repair it, and he will fall out of the top 5. Whippy has just seen everything go perfect for him. He is likely going to walk off to an easy championship now and an easy race victory. And Ozza got a time penalty in the middle of that collision also, so now Dave Ewart is the only driver who is likely to get no time penalties to the end of this race. But the championship may now be over, and Whippy is likely going to walk off with it. There is nobody ahead of him on track for these next 5 laps, so he should be able to cruise to the end. Looking at penalties real quickly, Whippy and Dino both are at 3 seconds exactly. Boothie has 9 seconds of penalty, while Mufasa has 6 seconds. But the gap between them all is so much, that's not going to change the top 4. Prudish Metal is closing in on Mufasa, but he has 3 more seconds of time penalty compared to him, so he's not going to be able to do anything with it. In fact, as we continue to look down the order, outside of Fratters, who is likely going to lose lose 1 or 2 spots at the end of this race, I don't think we're going to see very many drivers fall down the order post-race due to time penalties because everyone has some of them. Gusty and Skinny Fishbone, the 2 AlphaTauris, are going at it. Gusty has worn softs while Skinny Fishbone has worn mediums, and not mediums, hards, and the hards just do not have any pace compared to the softs. The good news for Ozza is that he can at least go for a few laps and try to see if he can get fastest lap of the day. But that won't be much of a consolidation prize, as Whippy is going to walk out of here easily with the race win. Dino going to be a little bit frustrated with his teammate XRL Fiend, as Fiend is currently holding the Red Bull up, going through sectors 2 and 3. And while Dino doesn't have any chance of catching Whippy, Boothie might be able to close in and capitalize in the process. Ozza walks by Constant Jet without issue. And now he's going to put his focus on Fratters ahead, but with only 4 laps to go, I don't know if that's going to happen. Back, Skinny Fishbone closed in within 6/10 of his teammate Gusty, but now we see him start to fall off again once they start going through the more technical and aerodynamic focused sections of the circuit once more. And impressively, it is XRL Fiend who is going to be in the middle of a lap down battle potentially. 1 second. Alright, sorry about that. As Skinny Fishbone continues to see if he can do anything to Gusty, he still has DRS on his teammate. This is the only serious battle on circuit, as Ozza is walking away from Fratters now. Higsby moves over farther up the circuit in order to clear the way. The good news for the Ferraris is that both Ferrari drivers will come home in the points-paying positions. Whippy, although he will win the race, won't earn as many points for the Renault team, so there is a little bit of relief for the Ferrari team in the Manufacturers Championship. They might be able to close a small amount there at least. But once more, we look. Fastest lap right now goes to XRL Fiend instantly. I thought it would be Ozda, but Fiend still has the fastest lap, interestingly enough. And a 105.747 is the best time we've seen thus far. Again, a little bit of DRS on this circuit would mean everything. So Oz's best bet would be to try and find a way to close in on Mr. Anderson and get the DRS off of him starting the next lap. But the gap between them is large enough, I don't think that's going to happen. So Oz is just going to have to hope that he puts down a monster lap here if he wants that fastest lap. Retrorixie, though, is also in contention for it because he also jumped into the pits. He is down there in the 14th spot right now. At the front of the field, and the front of the championship fight, it's the Renault of XRL Whippy. Came from an outstanding victory at Singapore last season, jumped into the Renault ride, and has just been on a tear for the last several races. He comes out of the final corner. Checkers are out, and in the Renault camp, it is victory for XRL Whippy. The Red Bull of Dino will come home second. Mufasa is currently set up for third. He crosses the line third. Here comes Boothie, and Boothie has had an accident. Boothie has had an accident coming into the last corner on the last lap. So Brutish Metal is going to come across the line fourth, and Boothie still hasn't crossed the line yet. All right, he's crossed the line now, and here comes Mr. Anderson. And Ozda behind him, and Ozda another time penalty at the very last moment. So neither of them are able to leapfrog Boothie. Here comes Fratters at the line. Fratters takes a penalty for not serving a time penalty earlier. Constant Jet will come home 9th, and Gusty will round out the points paying positions in the 10th position. There basically was no reorganization anywhere in the field due to penalties because of the gaps were so large. And Dave Ewart will get a bonus point for finishing the race without any time penalties whatsoever. But another victory for XRL Whippy, and his grip on the championship is all but insurmountable now. All right, and coming into the party right now is your race winner. Your race winner being XRL Whippy in the Renault. Whippy, go ahead, include your audio. What do you have to say about a fantastic victory here at Austria? Yeah, I just want to hear what you have to say about your fantastic victory here at Austria. Ozda got turned by Dino. It wasn't intentional. It was just they ran out of track. It wasn't like intentional or anything. So, yeah. All right, well, I do want to say one other thing. With this victory, you will have massively increased your lead in the points. So now the question is, when it comes to the Manufacturers Championship, both Ferraris earned points, but you were the only Renault to earn points today. by scoring points in the top 10, obviously. So do you have any way that you think you might be able to hold on to Renault's current lead in the Manufacturers' Championship? All right, well, that's the word from Whippy. And once again, congratulations on your victory and what it seems to be a all but assured championship for you. Yeah, it doesn't seem like it's going to happen, mate. That's not to say that we know that Ozda and Retrorixie are fast. It's just they've been horrendously unlucky, so... All right. Well, that's the word from Whippy. And once again, thanks for including your audio. And it's a very interesting scenario, to say the least, for us in the broadcast booth, because we started the broadcast a little bit late, I will admit, and we had very, very short qualifying sessions, 1 and 3. We didn't go late at all, and then we only had, 2 very brief virtual safety cars. So nothing really slowed the pace of this race down whatsoever. We're done significantly earlier than normal by broadcast standards and everything. So I hope those of you at home will enjoy the extra time that you're going to have, because there's not really a lot of a point for us to stick around. We are going to go ahead and wrap up the broadcast for XRL X3. You might be able to go over to the main channel and catch the ending bits of the X1 race. And at 8 p.m. UK time, you can catch the X2 race that will also be at Austria. Until next week, I've been St. Lear 13, signing off, and see you later.